another episode of Luxury with Natalia. I'm joined today by John Leonida from Clyde Co. How are you today, John?
I'm very well, Natalia, very well.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I think you're in London at the moment.
I am indeed, and have been since the start of the lockdown, in splendid isolation, principally in my library where you find me today.
That's amazing. And how are you keeping up? And are you kept busy?
Remarkably busy, and I have to say, I've never been healthier or fitter or more centered than I have been in these eight weeks. None of the normal distractions of life. It's been. I've made the best of a very dreadful situation.
And I think most of us have as well, in terms of finding ourselves and also learning new ways of communicating with our clients and audience and whatnot. So how have you found that with Zoom? Especially we're on Zoom right now.
We're on Zoom now, but I've come to learn that there are a multitude of video conferencing facilities. And for me, what is amusing, if you will, is that immediately before I was a lawyer, I was in public relations for British Telecom's data networking service. And this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And we were then promoting the idea of what we called digital cottages, and having video conferencing. And it was an idea that obviously was almost 30 years ahead of its time. And it didn't take off in the way that we anticipated. But what is fascinating is to see the way that it has been embraced for something that I worked on before I was a lawyer. But there we are.
Some little anecdotes there. Love it. Amazing. So catching up now in 2020, we said it was a new decade and new opportunities, and everyone went in with a bang. And then here we are in confinement, most of us, and things have changed dramatically. For some, they say dramatically. For others, it's an opportunity. So
whether it is dramatically or it's an opportunity, let's have a look at in reality what's happening, and let's not lose focus on the tens of thousands of people who have lost their lives during 2020 because of this dreadful disease for which we have no cure, no vaccine for, and that must be at the top of our agenda. And I think what this period has done is allowed us the opportunity, if you will, to step back and reassess and reevaluate what we do and how we do it. Part of that is working from home. Part of that is being sensitive to what's going on in the rest of the world. And I read the comments from Seabass and Libra in their letter to Informer, the organisers of the Monaco Yacht Show. And I think the maturity of the comments made by Seabass and Libra in not being tone deaf to what's going on in the world around us it shows a degree of maturity that sometimes we haven't always shown as an industry.
Especially at this time, yes, it has been a bit of a half a chapter's been saying, yes, it's a good thing and we need to be sensitive to the worldly events and the situation, pandemic, and people being affected by it. And the other half is saying, oh, but that's a tragedy for the yachting industry. So it's very much split ends here, and interesting to hear what you say.
Well, it's interesting. Certainly there are those who are at the sharp end of selling our industry, and their whole raison d'etre, if you will, is precipitated and predicated and built upon the sale of yachts. And if we are not selling yachts, why are they there? And that is obviously a genuine concern for people at that place in the super yacht industry. And we've seen the virtual boat shows pop up, and one wonders how successful they've been, how relevant they are, and whether the idea of the boat shows is to give us a warm sense of belonging, that we are still here and we haven't gone away. And that must be part of it. But as we go through the year and as we move to the years that will follow, we need to reevaluate what we do and how we do, and how we engage with the broader community, not just the immediate yacht owners.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that these virtual yacht shows, or boat shows as they call them, and also Zoom conferences online have helped to connect the industry to, as you rightly put, feel that you're still in there and that it hasn't all gone away and that we're all there to defend ourselves in our own little square feet. It's just a matter of being connected and talking about what to do in the event that shows don't happen, or how are we going to organise the industry as
but this has only worked, if you will, because we are a tight-knit bunch. It's only worked because we know each other so well that you can jump on a Zoom call with people that you've met 1,000 times, because you already have that connection. The challenge will be, how do you connect with people you don't already have a relationship with? And I don't think we've worked out how that's going to happen. But what we should be certain on, and what we should really be looking at going forward, is how our industry will change, how people will respond to luxury going forward, and what will be the long-lasting effects and impact of the corona virus. I think people have, in a number of webinars I've viewed, have gone back to the 2008 crash as being the reference point. I think that's probably a mistake. I think the reference point that we should be looking at is the response to the aftermath of the Second World War, because it is global, it is cataclysmic, there has been a huge loss of life, and people culturally, I think, are changing the way that they may be behaving. And I think it's instructive to look at those cultural changes that happened at the end of the Second World War. And I'm not saying those changes will be the same changes that will happen now, but there will be cultural changes. And I think it would be remiss of us not to recognize that will be an issue. And I was reading the McKinsey report on the state of the fashion industry, and in their chapter on luxury, they said that post this virus, it won't be the same as it was post 2008. And I think if you haven't read that McKinsey report on the future of the state of the fashion industry, I think you'd be well to find it on the internet and read it, and in particular read the chapter on luxury fashion. And I know it's fashion and not super yachts, but there are elements of it which are quite instructive.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, and we'll definitely have a look at it. And in fact, when you mention fashion is not yachting, however, I like that anecdote, because has yachting tried to strive to do in the past years is to catch up with the luxury industry per se that we perceive as fashion or automotive, etc., and doing marketing in a way that's more aligned to what they've been doing, far ahead of the yachting game, if you like. So in terms of what you've seen in your experience, what dramatic changes have happened that you're quite thrilled to have seen that align with that industry that we're talking about?
I mean, I've been in the industry for the best part of what? I did my first yacht deal in 1998. So a little while. And I joined the industry just as it was beginning to blossom, if you will, and I've seen it grow over the last 22 years. What's been interesting is how the industry has matured in those 22 years, from sort of stumbling around and being caught up in purely bigger and better, and to being more attuned to the way that clients live their lives, the whole lifestyle thing, the whole environmental thing. I mean, we forget that the super yacht industry in its current iteration is probably no more than 25, 30 years old. It's a comparatively new industry in its current iteration. And I think we haven't invested the kind of money that the car industry has, that the luxury fashion industry has in research, and we have followed. I think the industry has woken up to that in the last 5 or 6 years, and I think you look at the developments in both International magazine, for example, the way that under the current ownership, that the focus of that magazine has changed from being a maritime car magazine with merely pictures of boats and specifications about yachts, to being a lifestyle magazine. Because what is yachting if not about lifestyle? And it has always been about lifestyle, whether it was in the late 19th century, in the early 20th century, where you had the great American industrialists with their yachts, and the aristocracy and royalty with their yachts. It was about a lifestyle, and it's always been about a lifestyle. But we seem to have lost sight of that, because there have been very few businesses that have straddled that long period and have had people who have known about the industry as it was. I mean, people like George Nicholson, for example, was one of those people. But one man on his own cannot inform an entire industry.
That's very nicely put. Yes, agreed. And what's your take then on the shows or the events that have taken place to try and actually get into that atmosphere for the clients? I'm talking about the Super Yacht Show, the Super Yacht Experience that was meant to take place this year in the US. What's your take on how that's been adapted to the clients?
Well, the only one I've had personal experience of was the Super Yacht Village at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show last year, which was a departure for Seabass in setting up a separate space for their members, and I have to say I was quite impressed by that. It focused on that which is important to super yacht owners and super yacht builders, and got rid of the extraneous noise. And there's a lot of noise at a lot of events which the owners don't want to know about. I mean, you look at something like the Monaco Boat Show, and when I first went to it back in '98, you could do the entire boat show in in a day and a half and leave. And it's grown like Topsy, and it's still the most important event in the boat show calendar. But one begins to question all the add-ons, the fringe events, if you will, the more business to business stuff, and the most important thing, which is yachts, seems to be hidden within this broader circus that has built up around the Monaco yacht show. I mean, even to the extent I know that there are conferences that go on during the Monaco Boat Show during the day. When you should be in the boat show, you working the show. There are conferences going on. I find that I've always found that rather extraordinary. But there we are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a time and place for the industry events, and then for the more pertinent events that are to be catering for the clients. And that's why I think the super yacht show and the super yacht experience kind of eliminated all the excess noise, as you called it, and has done a good job to say, right, we're here for you, the client, not about us.
Yeah, and it has to be about the client. It has to be about boats. It has to be about the clients, because that's what we are passionate about. We're passionate about the sea. We're passionate about the boats. All the other noise, which are a necessary part of the industry, we don't have to replicate it at every single event. We have events for all the other stuff, but let's have a few where it's just the yachts that are important and the owners.
So would you say that perhaps the future of yachting in terms of the yacht shows might be a blend of virtual and what we're more familiar with, the classic trade show style?
I think the virtual has to be considered. I think we've kind of rushed into these virtual boat shows, and they're effectively at the moment quite clunky, not very interactive events. I think to ignore the virtual thing would be a mistake, but I think more time, more research, more technology needs to be applied to it, and I think they've got to be part of the overall super yacht experience, and I don't see them as competing. I see them as complementary, but I think one has to, when all this is done and dusted, people have to step back and say, what would an owner want from a virtual boat show? How would they want to interact with that virtual boat show? And how does that fit in with the physical boat show? And it's part of that experience, I think.
It's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, what is it that you will miss this year most of all from all that's happening that you can't do?
It is the intangible. It's the meeting with people. I mean, we talk about virtual reality, but we in the super yacht world are a small traveling circus of people who we all know each other. We exchange views. We exchange intelligence. We exchange smiles, and that's what I will miss this year. It is the humanity of our relationships.
I agree with that, and I'm very much about bringing those smiles back through the means of this platform. So hopefully this will bring a few smiles to you and also to the audience. And I have one last question that I'd like to ask you. As this is Luxury with Natalia, what is luxury to you, John?
Luxury is so many things, but I think for me, luxury for me is time. It is always time. It's the ability to take time to look at a view, take time to experience a piece of art, take time to enjoy a fabulous meal with friends. It is always about time. And time expresses itself physically also in in luxury goods, because good luxury goods have time invested in them by the artisans who produce them. The worst thing you can do is call something luxurious, because the luxury pours out of its every pore. It doesn't need to be called luxurious. You know it is, because it embodies the time that it takes to make and design. And that, for me, is luxury.
You nailed it on the head there. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate all that you've said. And I hope that we get to meet once things are safer, for everyone to come out and gather again in the good old times and good old ways, but maybe with a twist of a different aspect there. So once again, thank you.
Natalia, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks everyone for watching. This was another episode on Luxury with Natalia. More episodes coming soon, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks everyone. Bye.